What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. You guys, this episode, or whatever you want to call this upload, we're going to be working on the kind of the dash, but also on the harness placement, like basically checking clearances and also the vintage air kit. What I mean by that is that you guys already know when it comes to this vintage air kit, you got to modify the back of this dash. Obviously, we're going with the SS dash. You basically got to cut the backside out to make room for the vintage air kit. We've already started the process. You can see dust and everything. We cut the backside out, and we might even cut it out even more because we're going to do a little bit of a different configuration with this car, and we're going to be doing a little bit of different wiring. I'll take you to the car here in a second. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. All right, baby, I think we in there like swimwear, you guys. Mocked in there. Now you can see we got the vintage air already mocked in there. Now I know we've got a big old gaping hole back there, but that's where our firewall plate's gonna go. Still have to do that, of course, but we don't really need that for this mock-up purpose right here. But I want to see what kind of room we have. You can see if we didn't cut that box out, we would be hitting right there the vintage air kit. So what I want to do is PSI harness, right? That's the harness we're going to be using for this swap. And we're going to be doing a little bit something different for the rest of the car. Now this is the Highway 22 from American AUTOWIRE. Now this is not super specific to any car. This is just something that they design for stuff like this when you're doing resto mods and you got even different circuits and things like that. And it's a nice kit, but it's not super plug and play. You definitely got to do some wiring, but it is gonna make this thing sweet. I am excited to run this thing, but again, you can see kind of how big and bulky this thing is. And what I want to do is I want to see where we can fit this thing. Ideally, we want to try to put it in the glove box along with the PSI fuse panel as well. That's why we got it here. So I'm going to try to figure out where we can mount it in here in this area for service purposes, because at the end of the day, when you're troubleshooting an issue in a car and you need to be able to get to that fuse panel, it's got to be accessible, right? You got to be able to get to it. So again, we got everything mocked up. That's going to kind of be in the way for the most part, other than the lines and things like that, but that'll be flowing that way. Not a big deal. A few connectors for sure here from the actual Dakota Digital. Not, sorry, Dakota Digital, but the actual vintage air kit. So we'll take that in consideration. Again, we might even have to cut back further, but let me see what we can come up with here. Let me see if we can kind of get some of this stuff landed or figure something out, get a game plan going. Yeah, definitely gonna have to cut more, you guys. I normally like to leave the PSI fuse box in here for the engine compartment, but you can see, I mean, that thing is a beast of a box. So what I'm probably gonna do is we're gonna take this back out and maybe we'll mark it with a piece of tape or something, and I'll probably take another 2 inches, but just off the top. We're probably gonna leave the bottom the way it is, and then I'll cut the top off a little bit more to give us a little bit more room and see if we can figure something out. Now we're getting closer, definitely getting closer. You can see that's starting to look a little better. Originally, I kind of wanted to put the wires going down, but I don't think that's going to work very well because of the way the dash is constructed from the factory. So I think this would give us a better setup this way with the wires from the top Not to mention it'll let us wire everything up nice and neat out of the way so nothing's hanging down below. But I think I'm gonna still have to trim a little bit more right here this corner. Now I'm trying to do a little bit at a time, because if we trim too much, then then we're screwed. So let me trim this back a little bit more and see if we can get a little tighter to that area right there.
More moments later.
All right, you guys, we got it notched a little bit more, and I even went ahead and notched a little bit right here for that wire that kind of sits there for the main power. Probably gonna have to notch it a little bit more. I also don't like this little corner. I kind of want to, my OCD is getting the best of me. I want to be able to see that lettering just like you can all the way down. But I think we can make something work, something like that, and then this guy to live right next to it, something like that. What do you guys think? It'll definitely be tight as far as getting the fuses out, but I think you can still get to them, especially if it's just one fuse at a time, not a huge deal. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to build some kind of backing plate real quick to hold them both together as tight as possible, and that'll give me a better idea. So this is kind of what I'm envisioning right here. This is basically would be your fuse panel, and then maybe I leave it long like that, and we can come off actually the top of this groove right here. This is actually where your AC vent would sit up, your defroster, and then we can bolt it up to that. Instead of actually trying to weld it on, we could actually bolt it up so we can always remove it. We can probably try that. I do have to redraw this one again because it looks like actually it has to sit upright like this, obviously, in order for it to fit inside the enclosure in here. But this is kind of a bracket that I use from time to time from PSI for their fuse panel, but in this case, obviously, we can't use it. But I had it sitting there so we can kind of mock up the holes and stuff and kind of gauge the size of it. But we can do another template, add this upright like this, and then maybe cut it out of metal real quick, just hand cut it, and then kind of give us an idea. But I am going to get the defroster here and mount it and see what kind of clearance it's going to give us for that also. What is up, guys? So it is the next day. We ran out of daylight and actually camera died. But it actually gave us a chance to figure some stuff out because let me show you. So obviously that's the bracket that we were making, and it actually turned out pretty good, other than I totally screwed up. And this piece for our fuse box from PSI, I actually had to make it this way, had to clock it this way. And I totally screwed that up. And you see, it definitely takes a lot of time to sit there and make it one piece at a time, not to mention all these little weird looking cuts just so we can have some room for the harness. So I took the liberty of actually just go ahead and designing it in CAD. I already have it kind of here made up here. This is a cutting software. This is not my CAD program. But again, I took it, just kind of measured, took some measurements and designed it and then drew it in CAD. What we're gonna do is we're gonna cut it out of cardboard first, basically get our template, and that'll kind of give us a good idea with that fuse panel, if that's going to work or not. And then once we have that ready to go, then I'll actually send it out and get cut out of aluminum or metal, whatever we decide. But let me go ahead and cut this up here. What we're going to do is we're going to frame it real quick. This little guy here kind of give us an idea on where it's going to land on this this cardboard here. So that should be good there. Looks like we're in bounds, we're in line, we're within our work surface. That's what we want to check. And now we can actually start cutting. So what I'll do is I'll set this thing up and have it start cutting so you guys can watch. This thing's pretty neat. This is actually meant for like engraving and stuff like that, like wood, but it's not a super powerful laser, so it takes a lot of passes and a lot of power to even engrave anything with it. But I found a buddy of mine was using, his name is Jake. He really turned me on to this thing, but I extended this thing to have a bigger surface. So you can see it's basically cutting out our 2D part at a cardboard, and it'll give us a template, and then that way we can mock it up when it's done, and we can compare it to this guy. If everything checks out with all our holes and everything and our size, and then just this guy being the other way around for our fuse box, then we should be good to go, and then we'll get it cut out of metal. This thing is working, my little roboto. I call him Roboto. Oh yeah, see, this thing works pretty good. And you can see it doesn't take much just because it's super thin cardboard. I mean, it's really just poster board, but it is working. Looks like it's done, you guys. So let's see how this turned out. We'll compare it. We'll get a quick comparison to the one we made by hand. And then the biggest thing is just our mounting holes and making sure everything is there. Not to mention this size here, because we want that fuse box to sit at a certain height in the car. So as a matter of fact, let's do this. If I can do this with one hand. Obviously that'll be different, but the top and bottom, that looks pretty good. That's pretty freaking close, you guys. I mean, it's pretty much dead on right there. I think we can make that work for sure. Now you can see how that was supposed to be the other way versus the way I actually did it. Again, totally my fault, but it's all good. This actually will make a better part and a lot cleaner part once we get it CNC'd. But I think I like that. I'm gonna go take it to the car real quick and just kind of mock it in the car so you guys can kind of have an idea. Because what it is this, if the panel, this fuse box here from PSI, if it sits this way, then our relays will end up going this way and you won't be able to see them. You won't even to get to them. We have it this way, the relays will sit down here below so you can actually get to them. Let's go to the car. All right, you guys, we got the dash mocked back in, and we got that little template kind of mocked in as well. And I'm kind of glad we did this because it looks like I actually need to come over a little bit, because ideally that's kind of where we want that to sit at. And right now the mounting holes is suggesting it's actually going to go up a little bit more, but if we go that far up, then you really got those top fuses blocked like completely where you can't even get them out. So I'm going to make some adjustments in CAD and then come down a little bit, and then also maybe even come over just a tad as much as we can. But other than that, we just got to get it cut. I'll see you guys later. All right, guys, let me show you a little something. So we had to cut some more. We ended up cutting a little bit more out of the back of this dash to make sure everything fits and clears. We checked a few more spots, and we definitely did a little bit more trimming right in here just to kind of give it a little bit of area for the relays slash fuses that sit on here from PSI, not to mention back here for the actual fuse panel. But it is a couple days later, and probably a week now, because we actually ended up, like I told you guys, we ended up cutting that part, have it CNC'd, we designed it, and I think we got a better fitment. Let me go show you. As a matter of fact, let me take the dash over to the car. We'll put that in. You guys can see how this thing fits. This is that new piece that we ended up designing and getting cut out. You can see, man, how much nicer that thing is gonna sit. I mean, if you look, That looks pretty freaking good right there. Obviously, everything's not bolted in exactly. We took some things apart just to kind of see if we can get better clearances all the way around. But I'm liking our fuse panel here, and I'm liking our fuse panel here from PSI for the actual harness. Now, this is the one that we started with. If you guys remember that one, that's kind of the one we handmade. But again, we totally screwed up, which actually worked out because we actually ended up getting one cut out via obviously CAD design and CNC, so that's a lot better. But what I also noticed in the process of this, obviously we had the 2 mounting points up here, and that was it. And this thing was kind of flimsy at some point. So what I did is I ended up building this little bracket down here by hand and actually utilized this bolt area from the vintage airbox. Like, this actually comes here already. So I just made a little bracket, and I actually purposely design holes up here in the drawing in CAD, so that way I kind of had an idea what I wanted to do, but I put holes there for that reason, so we can probably put a support bracket. And sure enough, it actually worked out beautifully. Again, I just kind of handmade this one at the bench, but that works out perfect. So when you have this in the car driving around, that thing's just not going to shake, move around any wires or anything like that. And it's supporting the box all at the same time, because you got the mount up top and you have that mount down below. But in the other aspect of this, I wanted to design that fuse panel and relay location to be able to mount the dash, mount your whole dash here, and pull it in and out, like I should say on and off. Being able to pull the dash on and off without ever messing with that fuse box. So right now, in theory, we'll go test it though. In theory, you should be able to pull that dash on and off without removing any of this. So at the end of the day, when we start wiring the car up, we'll wire everything in, and we don't basically have to have the dash on. And we can kind of wire the whole car this way, more or less, with a few exceptions, of course, and have the dash removable for whatever reason, not to mention service, maintenance, and things like that. Also left a space back here, you guys, for just extra wiring or even hoses for the AC, the ducts and all that. So we left a nice gap back there, not to mention have to plug in the vintage air box as well back there. And we still have room here for our ECU. Our ECU will still mount to the back of the dash. I don't know if you guys seen those brackets that I make for the ECU. Is very specific to the Chevelle dash though, so we'll still mount that behind the air duct, and then this will plug right in from PSI. So everything will really live here as far as the ECU, fuse box, and even the transmission ECU. We should be able to tuck kind of in this location here like I've done in the past. But I really like it, you guys. Let me know what you guys think. Put it down in the comments below. As a matter of fact, let me grab that dash. We'll put it on real quick, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about and see how that's going to look. Damn, Gina. I like that, you guys. Check that out, man. That's gonna look so good. I am happy with that. I mean, just look at it, y'all. Just look at it. I mean, you pop the glove box and you see all your fuses, relays, and everything you need to get to. You don't have to go to the engine compartment. You don't have to disassemble this crazy, you know, cover or something like that. You literally just pop the fuse box off. And then we still have some room up here for OBD2 port. We can still put that up here. But I like that. We'll probably end up putting our Dakota Digital box up top like always. But you can see it is definitely a super tight fit, like crazy tight. That's why we just kept cutting, kept trimming, and making it look as best as possible. Obviously, the goal is always serviceability, you guys. I'm big into serviceability. If you can't service it, it kind of doesn't make any sense for me. And not to mention, we're going to clean this up. Once we got the dash pretty much finalized, I'm going to go back in here, and then we'll end up painting all the areas we cut, getting it all nice and painted, cleaned up, so that way you can't even tell it was cut. But tell me what you guys think. Put it down in the comments below. We'll also end up powder coating these brackets. So what I will do is we'll disassemble everything again, because we still got to come in here and coat the rest of this firewall, primer, insulate everything. So we'll coat all that stuff black, so that way it all blends in. You can't even tell it's there. But you can see how everything's gonna work. The dash mounting locations are all gonna work like they should, and no issues whatsoever. But I really like it. Obviously, we still got our stereo to do, our decoder digital, AC up here, but again, it's all out of the way. This was my main concern here because, again, we've never used this fuse panel, and I like it. I think it's going to work great, and everything's going to lace up nice and neat. But I like it, you guys. I like it. I think we're going to leave it there. Well, you guys, I think that's going to do it for this video, man, because it's starting to get hot out here. It's starting to warm up finally. Yeah, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and hit the bell for notifications. And you guys already know, stay wrenching.